Hey guys, it's Hob Ramble from the Board Game Geek forums. I'm here to talk a little more about Epic Strategy. This is my fourth video, and this time I'm going to talk about the strategy of discarding all of your cards. This is an interesting strategy that, as far as I am aware, is fairly unique to Epic, which is, in a lot of trading card games, if your deck runs out, you lose, or you reshuffle your deck. Epic is fairly unique in that if your deck runs out of cards, you actually win. So because of that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the strategy of just emptying your deck. Now, an interesting thing to note in this, and I'm going to be clear here, I am including the Kickstarter bonus pack when I discuss this. Currently, as I'm making this video, Epic hasn't hit regular store shelves yet, so if you have gotten the game, you're probably getting the Kickstarter bonus cards anyway. But even if you don't, these strategies will still apply. It's just a few of the numbers I'm about to give you are going to be off, specifically this number. There are 31 cards in Epic which allow you to discard, or to draw 2 cards. All of them cost a gold. They either cost a gold outright, such as Ritual Sacrifice, draw 2 cards, or they cost a gold to draw 2 cards. Spite and Kalnar's Blessings are examples of this. They have a free ability, but it's 1 gold to use their draw 2 cards ability. Basically all of these cards are like this in the sense of it's draw 2 cards or do something else. But there are 31 of them. I just want to be clear on that. There's 31 of them. And I'm not including, when I say there's 31, Crystal Golem or Raging T-Rex. If you include them, we're up to a solid 33. Crystal Golem is a champion, but if you break him, you draw 2 cards. So really, he could be considered a pay 1 gold to draw 2 cards scenario. Raging T-Rex is a champion. He's 1 gold. And if you use his loyalty ability, you draw 2 cards. So assuming you have 2 other wild champions or cards of any sort in your hand to use that loyalty ability, he is also a draw 2 cards card. But because of their extra cost, the breaking or the loyalty ability, I didn't count them when I say there are 31 cards that let you draw 2 cards. Of those 31, 2 are of particular interest if you're interested in going on a strategy based around discarding cards, and that's Forbidden Research, which can be recalled by breaking a champion you control, and Ancient Chant, which can be recalled by paying a coin, but when he leaves your discard pile, you draw a card. So it gives you that third draw there, which sort of makes the recall worth it. Both of these are nice because since you can recall them, it gives you a little more freedom, a little more certainty that you can, if you're not drawing your draw 2 cards, that you can have other cards coming up. Though that's, again, in a sense, kind of unlikely because with 31, not counting these 2, with 31, and then we're going to count them, well, 33 cards that let you draw 2 cards, you're fairly unlikely to not have plenty of them in your deck. Theoretically, your whole deck could be them for a 30-card deck game. Now, there's a couple cards that are helpful with this strategy that I'm going to now mention, and that's Time Master. Time Master is useful because you can tap him to draw a card, and you can tap him to gain a gold. So if you're going with playing a lot of these cards, since they all tend to cost a gold, you can, draw 4 cards a turn if you're using him. Or at least 3 if you just use his tap ability. So he can give you a lot of power to doing that. And I've talked in another video about how Time Master is a great card, but in this kind of a strategy is one of the examples where he's very helpful. Another is Winter Fairy. When she's tributed, you draw a card. When she damages an opponent or is broken, you draw a card. Otherwise, she's a pretty basic hero, but that's a basic champion. But that's a great little bonus there. Not to mention, she's airborne, but that's a little less relevant. But she's a great bonus as she helps you get those draws going. As does Noble Unicorn, who when you tribute, or anytime his ally ability comes up, you draw a card. So if you've got a lot of good in your hand, he can really help you get those draws moving, and quickly. So those are the cards that work for this deck. Now I'm going to note there is a card that you may include in my original assessment of 31/33 draw 2 cards, but I personally don't. And that is Inspiration. Inspiration costs nothing. You banish 2 cards from your discard pile, and if they are both Sage, you draw 2 cards. Otherwise, you draw a card. The reason I'm not counting this is because this doesn't give any use to this strategy, really, because by banishing 2 cards from your discard pile, you're adding 2 to your draw pile. Thus, the fact that you're drawing 2 cards, it balances out. It's not that Inspiration is necessarily bad, but Inspiration is not getting you anywhere if your attempt is to discard as much of your deck as possible and win that way. So I'm not counting Inspiration towards this. Now, it's a rough strategy. And there's a few reasons why. The biggest one is when you're playing with a lot of these cards, you want to go for ones with great abilities because you might be running low on champions. You do need to, as much as you can get through your deck very quickly with these, remember you're still talking probably draw 3 cards a turn, your regular draw, and then the 2 from these. If you have Time Master or say some other ability, a Noble Unicorn perhaps, you might be getting more going. However, you're still talking 10 rounds. If you're doing 3 cards a round, it's going to take you 10 rounds. And that's assuming you're not playing anything but basically these. So, you're could be running low on champions. You can very easily get destroyed by an opponent in 10 rounds. Once you've played a few rounds of Epic, and I'm sure some of you already have, you'll notice games can be over in a couple of rounds. So you really need to be careful with how you're going to run this strategy out. You need to be thinking about holding your opponent off for a long haul game. So it may be worth throwing some extra cards in that can help you do that. Another thing to consider is Amnesia, the be-all and end-all destroyer of this strategy. Now, there's other ways to destroy it. There are plenty of cards that banish things from your discard pile, and all of these will slow you down and make it take longer than 10 rounds to accomplish your discard everything. But Amnesia banishes your entire discard pile. So Amnesia throws everything off. Now, it is something just to consider here. I've actually given you a misnumber because there is one more draw 2 cards card. Interestingly, it's Amnesia. So that does bring the number up to 32 if you're not counting the heroes, 34 if you are, and if you're going to count Inspiration, 35. But again, I really am loath to do that because it doesn't help with this strategy. But Amnesia, it's also one you really want in your deck in this sense. You want it to be one of the ones you have in your deck, because if your opponent has it, banishing your entire discard pile is going to screw up this whole strategy. It's the killer on this one. That's all you really need to know for this strategy. There's not a whole lot to it. Mostly I'm trying to demonstrate, because people have discussed, is it a viable strategy to try to get someone to go through your hand? And the real point of this video is there are a lot of cards here that make it actually fairly viable. Specifically, there's that many. 30-something. It doesn't. Let's not worry about after what. Once you got 30, you got a deck. So, just to consider. Again, it's hard. You have to get the game held out and drawn out a very long time to pull it off. But it is definitely viable to play for the empty deck discard. That's the end of that video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave comments below and let me know what you think. And how you think the strategy could be improved, how you think it could be countered, better, maybe some deck ideas you think that work based on discarding a lot. And have fun playing Epic. Thanks.